August 20th is the 104th anniversary of the Pro Football League that later became the NFL. So here to share more on the beginnings of pro football and its ties to Oklahoma is celebrity historian Raffi Andonian. Good morning, Raffi.
Good morning. And speaking of pro football and icons, I even brought a Joe Montana signed football over here to keep us company as we talk about
thank you
the
for
origin
bringing
of pro
greatness
football.
in. We also have greatness if we show the other photo, too. Raffi played a little football
There's
as well.
little Raffi playing football. That's right. As a freshman in high school, I played before that too. That image, that photo is for me of me as a freshman in high school.
I love that. Have put your little photo in there. So how did pro football form? Because we know Oklahomans love their football.
That's right. So 104 years ago in 1920, today on August 20th is when you have the American Professional Football Conference form, which changed names a couple times and eventually became the National Football League and NFL within a 2-year period of starting out in 1920. So it was rapid name changes. And it formed in Canton, Ohio. Some football fans might know that because that's where, of course, the Pro Football Hall of Fame is today. So that's the birthplace. And several people came together, including Jim Thorpe, to form that league. Now, it's not the first time that pro football existed. It's the predecessor of the NFL, or it's actually the beginnings of the NFL, but the pro football had kind of begun in the 1890s with local athletic clubs in Pennsylvania and Ohio paying players to play. You have a team in Allegheny, Pennsylvania that had players that were all paid at one point. There were some attempts at leagues. In the 1910s and teens is when attempts at leagues kind of catch traction, having Jim Thorpe, who was an Olympic athlete and a star, playing football there. So that's why when this league in 1920 began, they plucked Jim Thorpe over from one of the other Ohio leagues and brought him in because he brought credibility and eyeballs to this new league, which became the NFL.
So some could say we had early days of trading happening on with that. So how does Oklahoma tie to this
Well, of course, Jim Thorpe, who's critical and central to that story, is from right here in Oklahoma. He was born in Prague, Oklahoma. He is on the Sac and Fox Reservation, which is his primary heritage. And growing up in that area, he eventually became a student at boarding schools, at Indian boarding schools. It's in that period when we had those Indian boarding schools taking place with the federal government. His parents died at an early age. His twin brother died at an early age. So he finds himself in Carlisle, Pennsylvania, where all this activity is taking place. Carlisle Indian School is where he's at. And that's where he meets a guy named Pop Warner. Now, of course, if you played little football like I did over there, of course, you're going to know who Pop Warner is, right? Now, Pop Warner was a coach at Carlisle, and he was coaching track and field and football. So he drags and recruits Jim Thorpe into track and field. It became a huge thing because, of course, track and field events, he did the pentathlon and the decathlon. Jim Thorpe did, and got 2 gold medals at the 1912 Olympics because of that initial recruitment that he got. 1912 Olympics, huge star at Stockholm. And of course, he went on to play college football also at Carlisle Indian School also. He was playing college football. And then went on to play pro baseball and pro football. And once he became a professional, a lot of people forget that he also played pro baseball, which is incredible. But of course, he's known for his pro football career. Many of his records in football and the Olympics are actually still comparable to records today, standing the test of time. Now, what's really interesting about Jim Thorpe's story, though, in the context of football, is not only was he, of course, because of his stardom and being a superstar athlete, bringing eyeballs to this new league now, right? And all these different sports that he was playing and bringing that attention over, establishing the legitimacy of the league. Marketing in sports has been a thing since the very beginning, right? But what's kind of interesting is that, he was often not comfortable with his celebrity. He distrusted that. He was kind of known as someone that, didn't like that kind of attention. He didn't like to be known as what he called a curiosity. He didn't just want to be a curiosity. So he did, he dealt with a lot of loss. We talked about his parents, his brother. He lost one of his kids at some point. He was divorced twice. And not only that, he was stripped of his gold medals at one point at the Olympics, which were finally restored fully in 2022. Yes, recently. It's still happening 2 years ago. So Jim Thorpe handled a lot of loss, which is why he struggled with some depression after his career in pro football. He worked construction jobs. He tried to work in Hollywood during the Depression in the 1930s. It was not easy. He struggled financially after that, but he never forgot his roots in Oklahoma, because despite all of that taking place, as he got older, he always strived to make sure that he was inspiring tribal kids in Oklahoma and around the country. country, which is a really fascinating story.
What an inspiration for all Oklahomans and around the world. Raffi, thank you so much for joining us today. For more information on Raffi Andonian and an endless amount of content, visit celebrityhistorian.com.